have a question, Stuart.
Yes.
Very much looking forward to seeing you next week. And my life and my meditation and my deep life has been turbulent and just revved up. And can you talk about the relationship of the teacher and the student and what I can best do besides surrender to my navel as I get ready to be with you? Thank you.
What you could best do besides surrendering to your... Look, a teacher-student relationship is a very precious relationship. Its purpose is to really provide a state of enlightenment. Both of them, by having a real need to be with God, by having a real need to do the work inside themselves, to develop a system inside that enables them to, connect with spiritual energy. I mean, this relationship is probably one of the greatest marriages that exists on earth, because it's a marriage that should be based totally upon the need for enlightenment, the need for God consciousness, the need for spirit. And in that marriage, let's take any marriage, you have to for a marriage to work, you have to let go. You can't go into a relationship with somebody, thinking that you're going to do it only your way. I mean, the very nature of the person that you're dealing with is going to demand that you have to surrender something. Well, having a teacher demands this all the time. It demands letting go of ego need, demands letting go of your basic craziness inside, the unhappiness inside, the tensions, the neurosis inside people. It all has to be surrendered in order for that relationship to work. So that relationship between a teacher and a student demands a very deep level of surrender, a very deep level of our humanity, a very deep level of letting go of all the blocks in ourselves, and to top it all, a very deep need to be with God. Otherwise, it doesn't work. If somebody tries to mold a teacher into their way of thinking, the relationship will go nowhere. If a teacher tries to mold a student into his or her way of thinking, the relationship's going to go nowhere. But if they both recognize they need Shakti, they need energy, they need nurturing, they need to surrender, they can't control the life of another human being. All they can do is nurture that life and train the person to build a system inside themselves that is strong enough to have a connection with God, with spiritual energy. That relationship is absolutely essential. Even before I met Rudy, I knew that was essential. I also knew something very clearly. I could not do this on my own. I needed somebody to guide me. And in finding somebody to guide me, I had to surrender deep enough to be able to receive the guidance. If I was going to spend all my time being right and this and, it absolutely done me no good. It would have done Rudy no good. It would have been a nightmare of a situation. So that really is the relationship. And both teacher and student have to do this. Otherwise, this relationship doesn't work. You can't have a relationship with a spiritual teacher on your own terms. If you try to do that, you'll go absolutely nowhere. And a teacher can't have a relationship with a student on his or her own terms, because it'll go nowhere, absolutely nowhere. It'll go everywhere if both of them incrementally surrender inside themselves so that they can make room for the energy, the Shakti, for the great depth of a marriage of that nature to take place. To me, that's really the key to learning from a teacher. You know, and if the teacher yells at you, you got to find a way to make it work for you. You can't be like an infant crawling in the corner, being unhappy because somebody didn't pat you on the back. Can't tell you how many times that happened with Rudy. And at first I was like, ooh, I was like in a state of shock. Then I began to realize, no, Stuart, how can you make this work for you? Even his yelling and his this, it's just energy that you can use to grow. You have to learn how to make this work for you. And eventually I learned how to do that. It was amazing. And it served me all my life. We need teachers. We need teachers on every level, you know. I mean, if you want to go into business, you need people to teach you how to do it. You know, if you want to be a musician, an artist or whatever, you need to learn how to do it. You need to learn the craft. Once you get the craft, it all just works. It works. And that's basically what a teacher is here to do, is to teach you how to get the craft of inner work. And once you master that, it works. You need it in whatever you do, whatever your profession is, you got to learn the craft. If you don't learn the craft, forget about it. And then once you master the craft, then the inspiration comes. All the juicy stuff can come and find a home inside you. I mean, I always tell the story of Milarepa and his teacher Marpa. I mean, it's a very famous story. And it's a great story. There were two Mahasiddhas, but Milarepa was a magician. He was a thief. He was, I think, even murdered somebody when he was younger. And at some point, he realized that he had to change and he needed to connect with God. And, he went to Marpa, who was a very famous Mahasiddha who lived in the mountains with his wife. And he said to Marpa, "What should I do?" And Marpa said, Milarepa, I need a house. Build me a house. Milarepa spent a year building a house. At the end of that year, he said, "Baba, what should I do now?" And Marpa said, "Well, I don't like quite where it is. Tear it down and build me another one." And this went on 13 times he did this. Now, when you look at it with a rational, it's just crazy, right? But it's not. After doing that, what could have been left of his ego? Nothing. He was living in a total state of surrender. He became the poet saint of Tibet. It takes that kind of struggle, really. And it's not Mop or Milarepa, it's a child of God learning how to become a child of God, learning how to surrender, learning how to let go, learning how to do whatever is necessary, to build an inner life that will get them closer to God. In many ways, as I say, if you look at it with a rational mind, it's very fanatical. If you look at it from a deeper sense of surrender in yourself, you realize what it takes to break the ego down, to break the will down, to break whatever we are down so that we can be full of God, Spirit.
Thank you, Stuart. Is that something that a student can ask out loud or silently from the teacher or from God?
Something a student can slowly learn to do.
Okay.
You know, you can say, what should I do to a teacher? And, all right, build me a house. Or you can find in yourself what you can do in order to break yourself down. And that's the only purpose of it. It's not to serve a master. It's simply a matter of breaking oneself down. We saw Rudy do that with Muktananda. It was unbelievable how much he surrendered and let go. And it was unbelievable what went on there. It was a great teaching for me. And then I said, Stuart, you have to learn to do this with Rudy. And Rudy wasn't this, this kind of sweet, holier than thou kind of guru, He was fire. He was fire. Most powerful energy I ever spent around. It was like a turbine in a jet airplane, when you were around him. And just being around him demanded such a depth of surrender that I learned the meaning of it. Does anyone else have a question? As I said before, rational thinking of people that live in the Western world and where we're trained from the time we're in kindergarten to live in this part of none of this makes sense. It only makes sense when you get to a place in yourself where you deeply experience what it means to live in a state of surrender. That's when it begins to make sense. And it doesn't make sense in intellectual terms. It makes sense because you see yourself growing and evolving, developing more consciousness, developing a greater capacity, to be used by higher energy in this world. Does anyone else have a question?
Stuart, I'll ask you, what does it mean to ask the teacher to go deeper? Like, is that, if I'm opening deeper energetically, then that like prompts you to go deeper, or is that like a discussion? Can you just talk about asking the teacher to go deeper?
Discussion. You open and go deeper. Any teacher worth his orange t-shirt would just simply connect with that and will, go to a place inside, which is much deeper, that will be able to nurture your growth. Your need affects how deeply a teacher will work on himself sometimes. And, Rudy always said a lousy, teacher can be made into a great teacher by a great student. And that's really true. So it just depends on how deeply your need goes. And any teacher, as I say, worth their orange robe or t-shirt, orange socks, whatever they wear, will respond to that. Say, okay, my God, that person is really demanding a spiritual life. I have to work in depth to be able to nurture that person. Somebody that just sit there and, they just look at you, doesn't inspire anything. The teacher will work deeply because they need to do it for their own spiritual life. But somebody who doesn't really have that need inside and just sits there like a limp carrot, it's not going to terribly inspire the teacher to go very deep.
How can we measure the depth of our own selves in these practices? Like,
you can't. You just do it. This is not, when do you try to get a lot of intellectual answers to your questions? And they don't exist, you just have to do it. It becomes living experience. You tap the need so deep inside yourself that you never even have to ask that question. It becomes living experience every day in your life. And then it's not a matter of knowing, it's a matter of you live it. It becomes integral to everything you do in your life because you have plummeted the depth inside yourself that opens a direct link between you and higher energy in the universe. And then you never ask, how can I tell you? It becomes living experience. And also, it's something the mind can never understand because the mind wants to put everything in cubicles and little boxes, wants everything to kind of intellectually make sense. And frankly, none of this makes sense intellectually. It only makes sense as living experience. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, if there are no more questions, I hope this is clear what I've been talking about because it's a difficult subject and it's a subject that tests everybody. We're all looking for intellectual and emotional cubicles to hide out in. And all this does is it breaks all that down. It turns everything into surrender, to depth, to being able to step into the unknown, to going past oneself, to opening in such depth that we truly become children of God living on this planet because we are being guided. We have opened enough to be guided by that energy in our lives. And many people, it's a frightening proposition. They have to let go of this well-conceived world they've created in their brain that is usually making everyone crazy. Because no matter how much you can concoct in your mind, you understand, in comparison to infinite energy in the universe, it's like it's like, as I always say, as I try to put the Atlantic Ocean in a teacup, it doesn't fit. You got to surrender. You have to let go. You have to build a system inside that is strong enough to be able to receive the energy that's infinite in the universe. And that's all meditation is about. That's what it's for. To build that kind of system. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? And then just to finish this up, the chaos disappears. The insecurity goes away. The need to control everything goes away. The ability to let life be manifests. The security to live here that way manifests. And I think that's an amazing way to get past oneself and to really open and again become a child of God living here. Okay, if there are no more questions, there'll be a class on Sunday. same time, same place. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody on Sunday. Have a great weekend. And again, God bless you all. Thank you. I tell you, you know, as difficult as it is for me to do this 7 days, 7 times a week, today is 50 people came to meditation. You know, I'm grateful because I am learning so much and all of you are part of it. And I need to learn the things I'm learning in order to continue this growth process inside myself. So God bless you all. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all on Sunday. Thank you. Bless you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you. Millions of thank yous. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome.
Right.
Thank you.
Bye.